Part 2. I touched upon tolerance. Now, when tolerance wanes, you get holy wars. You get racism, you get a whole slew of crap and stupidity. But what happens when when that intolerance is within itself? What happened with the Reformation? One group became intolerant of the other, and a split happened. And that's thanks to Martin Luther. Now, the thing is, power and intolerance always go hand in hand. Now, this is where that fun little word intrigue also comes lurking its ugly little head. In that, I don't like how he's running my church. And it all starts with coveting. Now I want to take you out because I want that seat. I want to be, say, a pope or a shah. And this is a major problem even today, because that infighting always spills out. It always spills out, and it drags everybody in it. I've seen it. I've experienced it with the Stockton ward, and that was my final straw. Granted, that bishop solved that little problem, but it's still a strike against religion as a whole. Now, knowing versus knowing is the final issue. Because way back when, we all knew the world was flat. Then I believe it was Hippocrates that proved otherwise. And all because he had a letter from a friend in Cairo, Egypt, in regards to a well. Did a little math and found that the actual circumference of the Earth, way before satellites and all that wonderful stuff, and he figured, well, the Earth is round. And there were quite a few naysayers, but he was able to convince. Now, we all knew the world was the center of the universe. And then Copernicus comes along and says, from the looks of it, I think we revolve around the sun. A little bit before telescopes. And that caused a huge furor. In that he was nearly killed because of this one statement. The Catholic Church wanted him burned. In fact, some of Copernicus's followers were burned at the stake. And then there's that little event with Galileo, who I'm not sure if he became a Copernican follower, but he proved certain things wrong. and for the rest of his life was excommunicated and basically in house arrest. Even though he decided to recant his statement, the church still gave a nice healthy fuck you. You're our prisoner. A prisoner in his own home. Of course, other people came along and proved Copernicus right, and Galileo. About 150 to 200 years after Galileo dies. And now there are people that say, we know Elohim, God, Allah exists. We know. We don't have proof, and we don't really need proof, but we know. Now, let's go before monotheism was the latest craze. We knew there were several gods and goddesses. We knew there were several apparitions that would eat your children and cut your throat. Yokai, Kamasats, Jinn. And Jinn's from the Muslims, monotheism. And the thing is, from what I've read in the Bible, and I'm assuming it's the same in the Kabbalah, and possibly the same in the Quran, in that in many ways God states several times that, one, you're not going to know when Armageddon's going to happen. You're not. And two, he states that, well, he probably doesn't state it, but in many ways it seems that he's telling Jews and Gentiles and Muslims that basically he's saying, I have my own ways. Sometimes they're brutal, and sometimes they're beautiful. There's going to be times you're going to question what I'm doing. So, with that, you can't say you know. Because if it's an all-powerful force, part of that mystery is not knowing. Part of the mystery is actually not knowing. It's like, it's late at night and you're walking in the street. You're alone until you see someone coming up behind you. Now, do you know he's going to take out a knife and cut your throat? Or is he really just going to walk off? So, with that knowledge, with that thought, you keep an eye. And your eye doesn't leave. At least not in the sense that you're keeping aware. If it's true with regular people, it's true with any god, goddess, or supernatural being. So if anything, every religion, monotheistic and polytheistic, should really be considering itself agnostic, with that logic. And maybe it's not even logic, it's more of a sentiment. Because, yes, it is scary not having control. We all want control. We don't necessarily want power, but we do want power over our immediates. Of everything around us, at the very least. But life, that wonderful, horrible little mystery, will always come around and prove you otherwise. So maybe there is no God, but just the thought that there might be something there looking out for you should be enough to comfort. Because when you take a god or a group of gods and make them personal, that makes not just easier for conversion, but at least easier to make sense of things unknowable. Now, part 3 is going to come up. Fun with atheists.